Okay, I'd like to start off just by introducing Jacques. Jacques is a sales engineer for Axis New Zealand, and today he's got some really exciting stuff. He's going to be taking us through the Axis Site Designer toolset. So without further ado, over to you, Jacques.
Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, so we're going to be running through Axis Site Designer and some of the newer features that it offers. It's changed a bit in the last little while. So for those of you that aren't aware, Axis Site Designer is a tool used for site planning, so specifically determining which cameras work on a site and how we can calculate in terms of bandwidth and storage, as well as a new feature which is available in terms of the mapping ability, placing cameras on an actual map and seeing the field of view that we can get from them. So what I've done is I've set up an initial site that we're going to work on, just as an example. And then as we go through it, I'd like to take some questions or suggestions on things you'd like to see. So for now, I'm just going to show you on the Axis page, we've got Axis Site Designer. So under products and solutions, we've got Site Designer. And there's a number of ways you can get to this link on the page. However, whether it be via learning and support Site Designer or products and solutions, Site Designer is irrelevant. You can also search for it. There's a number of ways to get here. Then the Site Designer has its own page where we can actually just all the normal marketing that surrounds these products. And then we get the option to launch the Site Designer, watch tutorials, obviously, and integrate it into Axis Camera Station if you choose to do that. So clicking Launch Site Designer will open a new tab. And if I just take this back, this is where you will end up. So launching Site Designer will bring you to a section where you can sign in and your projects will be stored on the cloud. However, you can do this and store it in your local browser cache as well, so without signing in. Then we can add a new project if you wish to, and that will then bring you to the start page, which is essentially what this will look like. Obviously, your numbers will be 0. I've added a couple of cameras for us to start with. You can give your project a name and call it whatever you want. You can adjust the location, and adjusting the location will essentially adjust the product codes in the design so that they are available and correct for your region. And you can just make use of those and send them through to Channel 10 essentially to get your pricing. We can obviously share this and then set up a number of settings. I don't think any of us are working with imperial units. And then in terms of maximum power calculations, max power or PoE class, that depends on what you specifically want to work with. If it's PoE classes or wattages, I normally just stick with wattages. Along with that, on our first screen, we have our office hours that we are dealing with. So you can either edit a specific schedule that you want to record or set up your recordings for. Again, I'm dealing with a school scenario, so I'm going to just have Monday to Friday. And 8 to 5 will cover the majority of my use cases for this scenario. You can add additional schedules for weekends, holidays, specific occurrences. If there might be a sport on a Saturday or something like that, then yeah, you can add additional schedules for those scenarios. Then from here, we would go and add devices. So on the top left here, we have the option to add devices. And we've got 2 ways of adding devices to the system. If you know which products you specifically want to work with, so if I want to add a PDZ, for instance, and I know exactly what I'm working with, then I could type in the model number and get the specific product and add it to the system. Design. You can place specific names on each of these products. and make use of whatever is relevant for your specific design. I could say playground in this case. If I can spell it, yeah. Okay. So PDZ for the playground. Ooh, if I can not delete that. There we go, that's better. All right, so the PDZ for the playground, and it's not an indoor scenario, but it's an outdoor scenario. And each of these scenarios you can set up either in your project overview. So you can go to the project overview and add multiple scenarios. If you've got traffic outside, I mean, obviously not for the school scenario that I've got set up, but there may be any number of scenarios. Perhaps a perimeter is more likely in this case. And I can say, ooh, typing's not working with me too well today. I'll drop the fence line recordings to 10 frames a second, and retention time should be 30 days. And you could set up each of these scenarios for each use case that you specifically need on your site. And this will allow you to do calculations using a specific scenario with a specific timeline. So we've got our outdoor fence line. So now if I jump back to my devices, on my PDZ playground, rather than have it as a playground, I can have it as the fence line scenario, other than your outdoor, your indoor scenario. So it depends what you want in terms of where the camera itself is placed. And you can edit these individual scenarios per camera. So if I choose to edit the scenario, it'll become unique for that specific camera. Again, providing me the specific bandwidth and storage requirements for that specific camera based on the scenario, the frame rates, the compression, everything that you've set up in this scenario subsection for that camera. Once we've got our scenario set up and our camera set up over here, we can add an alternate way. So we have an option to filter the cameras. So what the filter section does, it provides a number of ways to filter through the many access cameras that we have available. And what we can do here is we can open the filters section, and based on that, we can specifically search specific types of cameras. I'm not worried about specifically thermal cameras, but I could set a minimum camera resolution and make it 1080p, so I get rid of all the 720s. I can ask for IR. I can ask for light finder, so we want low light camera, remote focus and zoom, and vandal resistant, day-night functionality, zipstream, and optical zoom. And then what's going to happen is, based on these selections, I'm going to be left with a selection of cameras. So 9 of the access cameras that are available on this tool are able to give me the specific requests that I've had here. Along with that, we've got this nice little view over here where we can view specifically the camera as the camera view. We can orbit and move around the actual camera and see what the camera would see, essentially zooming in and out and moving it around with our mouse. And using this setup, we can adjust the distance to our target, adjust the horizontal field of view, what we would want to achieve. And as soon as we start playing with these specifically, the filters will again be applied. So currently we've got 11 cameras matching. If I want a wider angle, so something like a 85-degree angle, now I only have 9 cameras. So let's go wider just to show you. Okay, that's probably too wide. Let's go 95 degrees. 8 cameras, still doing well. 104. Now we've got 2 cameras that can deal with that specific requirement. So having a target at 22 meters where we want a minimum of 25 pixels on the target, which is this request over here, and a horizontal field of view of 104 degrees, we have 2 cameras which can do that. And then we can go and identify which of these 2 are specifically for my setup, if it's an indoor or outdoor. So you do have to know the product naming structure in this case. If you don't, then you would have to go either through your distributor or using these filters, find an indoor or an outdoor option. So I'll choose specifically the outdoor option. And as soon as I do that, I get the option to see how many pixels I'm getting on target, what the actual image would look like at that distance. And then I can choose to add that specific camera. And I can call this camera, that's not the one we just added. This is the one we just added. So I will give it a name and just call it gate, because I can make that my entrance camera. So once you've got all those set up, if you know of a specific setup for each of these cameras where you want to mount it, you can jump into the accessories tab, which is this little triangle square circle option. And if you click on that, you get the accessories selector, and you can choose the type of mounting you want it to be on the camera specifically, and you'll get different mounting options. Now it'll jump to the most common option essentially, but you can click any of these and then click alternate and get alternate options for mounting. So it'll jump to the most common one, but there are different options as well for each of these scenarios. And if you select the specific component, it will build the rest of the kit for you. So you don't have to figure out necessarily anything specific. It'll do this, the build for you depending on what you select. Once you've chosen a specific mount, you literally just have to click on the side and it will be included in your bill of quantities. You get the little blue icon over here. Along with that, I can select something like that for my camera. So if I want to put it on, for instance, a pole as well, I can choose to put my fixed dome camera on a pole. And again, it's going to include the actual brackets in my bill of quantities. Together with that, if you have any analytic or licensing requirements that you want to add, you can see what is included on the specific camera. And then if you want to add additional analytics, you can go and add those as e-licenses. Again, it's going to add line items to your bill of quantities at the end. Once we've got all this, we can choose recording platforms. Now, with the recording platforms, there's a number of options on the way we do this. As this site designer specifically has to do with Access end-to-end solutions, our focus will be on the Access video management software. So you can choose alternates. There are third-party VMSs and other applications, products available to choose from. I'm not going to cover those specifically. Those are based on information we've received from those third-party manufacturers, and they will filter based on their requirements. Essentially what we can do here though, based on the number of cameras we have on site, so I can see I need 17 licenses at the top here. I need 80 megabits per second and 2 terabytes of storage for this small site, and 161 watts of power to power this whole site. So as I need 17 cameras licensed, I can choose perhaps a 16 channel NVR. So I've got a recording option that's going to cover almost everything that I need. However, I don't have PoE and I'm missing one license. So I can then again go and add an Access I'll add a core license. I don't need a universal. So I'll add an additional 5 licenses. No, I beg your pardon. That's 1 license for Access Camera Station version 5. And then I need PoE power, so I can actually go and add a switch to support the whole system. And that will cover my entire system setup. So just as an example, I can get all these products on the Access Site Designer, all from Access. So you go end to end from the cameras to the software to the networking. We can cover all sides. And it's an option that a lot of people don't realize we have, is all these different components which we can offer as a complete solution. And the nice thing about this is if you should ever run into any problems, and we hope you don't, but should you ever run into any problems, you only have to come to one location for support for the entire system. So whether it be from the server, the networking side, or the camera side, we can cover you in terms of support for the entire system, should you do this. Again, accessories. If you have any system accessories, it'll show them here. All accessories will show you what's available in the system. These are additional accessories to what you would have specifically for a specific camera. So there's all number of different accessories here, from screw kits, mounting options, installation tools, indication LEDs, audio devices. I mean, bird control spikes, just to put spikes on top of your cameras, or your mounting options to keep the birds away. We have all these different types of options available as accessories in the tool as well. And the main reason they're here is because they form part of your bill of quantities. So it makes it really easy to pull it all together. Together with that, any other components which you would like to add. The main reason this is shown in the Access Site Designer is for third-party products to be added. You can create an entire invoice setup, or you can request additional items which you know your distributor sells via this tool as well. So if you want Cat6e cable, you can enter the part number, whatever it might be, and choose a specific quantity and 500 meters or whatever it might be, and you can choose to add that. So it just adds an additional feature to the tool as it stands. From here, we have the maps tool as well. Now, what I've done is I've pulled in a map, and I'm going to show you an example of what we can do when we pull in a map. But essentially, a map can be pulled into the Site Designer, and you can create boundaries where all the walls are. So if I was to grab any of these cameras and move them out, and I put these in here purely just to show you examples, the camera's boundaries actually adjust based on where you've set up these walls. So these blue lines are walls that I've drawn in on top of my map. And the nice part is it allows me to place the cameras, and as I'm moving the camera in and out, it will actually adjust the camera's field of view to what I can actually see from that specific camera in a specific scenario. Along with that, if I select a specific camera, I am able to see at the furthest point what a person would look like. So essentially, at the furthest point from this specific camera, a person would appear essentially at 100 pixels per meter as this little icon on the right hand side. Along with that, just to give you an idea of how this works when I add a camera, so I'm going to add my gate camera. So let me just grab the gate camera. So if I have a entrance to my school at any point, not to say that I do have one, I can just resize the field of view and position the field of view within the limitations of what the camera is actually capable to do based on the scale that I've actually set up with the drawing. And the scale of the map is set up when you add the map for the first time. So if I edit scale, just to show you, I get two little wings essentially, which I can grab and drag. And based on what you say that distance is between those two little areas, in this case, it would be 12 meters. So I can change it and it will adjust the scale of the entire drawing accordingly. If, for instance, I go and change that scale completely, just so that you can see what the difference would be. If I was to suddenly say that that is 120 meters, so the camera fields of views change accordingly, suddenly I'm covering a lot less area. Even though I've got my lines drawn to a greater distance, the field of view that the camera is actually covering is covered by this arch. So even if I was to draw the cameras and ask for an indefinite field of view, I can only meet my target field of view where that location is indicated by the arch of the camera. So that is my required pixel density at that point, which you set up. Now, obviously, you can change that per camera and set it up as needed. So we'll just change it all back. And in terms of adding cameras to maps, I can add new maps, and then I can just go and grab these maps from anywhere. So I could just grab random maps, and this is just a random map I've pulled from Google. So it's a random floor plan for SketchUp. So I'll just pull in a normal floor map just so that you can see what it looks like first time. So it adds in the floor map, again, comes up with scale straight away, and you can set up that specific scale. And just going to do a rough calculation of what that might be, approximately 8 meters. And then it'll scale everything for you. And again, from here, you can add cameras, etc. I'm not going to focus too much on this floor plan because we have done the school one. If you find that something like a camera in this case is displaying completely ridiculous distances because I don't have anything cutting it off, you can add the lines, and these lines on the left hand side here, these are the blockers essentially, and you can literally just click and drag, and wherever that line is, so if I hit finish, it's just going to block off that camera's field of view at that point. And you can edit these as well, so you can adjust them to be whatever you want them to be and wherever you need them to be. So if that is the fence line of the school, that might be where you just want to finish it, hit save, and it'll actually adjust your field of view accordingly. It's extremely useful, especially for end users who don't have the understanding of what we normally use from our Visio tools. So normally what we would do is we would just do normal overlays on the maps, and those overlays don't normally get blocked by the lines which we have now. So we've got those lines to block our field of view so that an end user can clearly see what's going to be covered if we place a camera in a specific location and what won't be covered. So that is very useful in that case. Obviously, we can adjust map opacity and those sorts of things. Not really majorly interested in that today, but this should give you a fairly good view of what you are able to achieve in this case. Then jumping to reports. Under our reports, as mentioned, we've got a quote option in here. So most people, I believe, on the call will have their own quoting system in place. This is more for your man in the van setup. So if there's any of those one-man companies running, there are options to build your own sales quote here. You can create your own invoice, own quotes, I beg your pardon, not invoices, own quotes, and enter prices, quantities, product, part numbers, etc., and have a nicely formatted document based on what you've already created. So no need to recreate something you've done already. As well, bill of materials. Bill of materials is based on everything we've set up thus far. So over here, we've got our cameras that we've added. So we'll have the 2 sets of cameras that I added initially. Then we've got our PDZ and our gate camera. We've got the licensing that I've added, so a single channel of access camera station license, the S1116 recording unit, which has 16 channels already licensed, a 24-port PoE plus switch, and then the accessories required for the specific cameras that we set up as well, and any other products. Okay, that's changed to recording. I thought I set it to something else. Anyways, you can then from here export to Excel, export a bill of materials file, or just print the document as a PDF essentially, or paper-based. Then from here as well, if necessary, if you're not using a design or the design to determine an access hardware platform, you have the option of using this to specify your third-party storage and bandwidth requirements for either the specific switching requirements, if you've got a lot of cameras of high resolution on switches, or for storage requirements on your server, throughput requirements on the network for the back end of your server. Any of those requirements, you can use this calculation in order to determine what you're going to need from those cameras that you've selected for your specific site. Then we have an installation report. Now, an installation report is essentially, if you go as far as setting up each specific camera, its position, height, if you give each camera a name, essentially, you will get, based on that, a specific mounting selection based on a specific camera. You will get the mounting height set up if you've gone as far as setting those up. Obviously, I haven't done all the details for each individual camera here. And then your recording setup that you've set up as part of your storage requirements, what your resolution is that you've set up, your frame rate, compression, zip stream, etc., as well as your retention time. The idea of this document is to give to the guy that's actually going to install the cameras so that they know the height, the accessories they need to install on a specific camera. When it comes to adding the camera to a video management software, they know the frame rate, resolution, compression, the retention time they need to set up for each individual camera, should there be differences for the different cameras. And then together with that, we've got a total storage and bandwidth calculation for the entire site. Now, with this, we also have the option, and I must just jump back to reports here. It's been moved. I must just check where it is. Okay, I'll find the location. But essentially what we can do is we can pull a file from Site Designer to Access Camera Station. And with that, and I believe it's over here now, export is to share it with someone. I must see where we've put it. But you can essentially pull this design to Access Camera Station, and in Access Camera Station, you can just link it to the design. And I will have to find out if anyone needs it, where they've moved it to, because it used to be under reports and bandwidth and storage. And it looks like it's been removed. So I will need to find out where that's gone. Interesting. Used to be all here. All right, not the end of the world. If anyone specifically is looking to pull the report for Access Camera Station from the site designer, then yes, we will have that option as well. I just need to find out where it's disappeared to. All right. If there are any questions on Site Designer, I will see if I can get this chat panel to open. It's not opening on my side. Kurt, are you still there? Are you able to open the chat panel? For some reason, it's not opening on my side. You're muted. You're talking, but you're muted.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that demonstration, Jacques. We can now move on to our questions segment. If you have questions, please feel free to drop those into the chat panel at the bottom there, and we can run through some of those now.
Yeah, I've seen people have been typing. I just can't see the actual chat panel for some reason. Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing for now, just to see. There we go. Now I can get to the chat. All right. And we'll go through the questions.
Hi, Jacques, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I got a question from Shu. Is it
Yep.
possible that you can quickly just show us again, if I just missed it, sorry, how to put the blockers in on the
Yep.
maps?
Sure, I will jump back in. Not a problem. So we will jump over here. Yep, am I sharing again?
You are.
Alrighty. So jumping back into the maps. On the left-hand side here, you've got a little option that says draw blocker. And literally clicking that creates a tool where you can just create lines. And to stop, you just double click on the last one that you've done and it will complete it essentially. You can obviously choose it. You can edit it afterwards. Oops. Let's just delete that. Cancel. You can edit these and delete them as well. So.
Perfect. And we have another question. Hi, Jacques. Can you advise, please, if panoramic multi-sensor cameras will have the correct field of view in the Axis Site Designer?
All right. So, correct field of view. If we choose any of the panoramic multi-sensors, they are fun to work with, but you need to fiddle with them a little bit. So in order to do this, I'm going to search for panoramic. So that's 3708. So let's choose that specific one. If I choose to add it, well, it's just, sorry, went one too far, not add. Change camera. And go to orbit, just makes it easier. It's only showing you sensor 1 out of 3 for the specific camera. So depending on the camera that you choose, the 3807, it gives you a warning top left-hand corner showing sensor 1 out of 3. That is specifically the middle sensor. The other two would cover the other 180 degrees field of view. So the idea here is that you get the view of what a person would look like at varying distances. Whoop, too far away. And the same would be applicable for the additional 180 degrees that you get for this specific camera. If you go for something like the 3807, which is the 180 camera, but they are merged. Ah, I did that again, sorry. Change camera. So they're all in one field of view, and I go into orbit. Again, it's showing 1 out of the 4 sensors. So these are the 180 cameras. The 360 cameras, so again, it's just showing you the one sensor.
Another question here, Jacques. Is
Just
it,
give me a sec, James. I just want to
sorry?
do the, oh, hold on. I'm just going to add the fisheye view. For the fisheye view, what I would suggest is changing the mounting option, and then you can change it to be a ceiling mount rather than a wall mount, and you can actually get the field of view that you would see. And again, moving the person further away will give you an indication of what they look like at different distances. Right. Thanks, James. Yep.
Perfect. And we are done. Are we able to load than one floor plan per project?
You can add multiple floor plans per project. So under maps, you can add multiple floor plans. So currently I've got 2 floor plans here for the same project. So if you've got again, my example, a school building with multiple floors or multiple classrooms, you can then go and add multiple maps. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's all the questions on this end. Over to you, Kurt.
Thank you for that, James. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that, Jacques. It's been very informative. And I want to thank you all personally for attending. I hope you found this demonstration to be educational. If you have any further questions moving forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or the team at Channel 10.